Hello Internet, this is Mike with Mike Jones Knife and Tool, and I'm just up here in northern Alberta at a spot called Fort McMurray, a big oil town up here, but it's got a lot of heritage, and I'm up here working for 3 weeks, and I'm just on our day off here today, so I thought I'd do a quick run through of kind of what we're doing up here and why I'm not at home in the shop making other videos for 3 weeks. So this is going to be kind of a real quick. I'm just going to do one shot because I don't think I can edit on my phone very well. So I'm just going to do one quick shot. I'll try to be brief, but I'm probably going to ramble on a little bit, but we'll see what we can get going through here. See if I can switch. All right, here we go. So these are the 3 buildings we're working on. They were built here in Fort McMurray in the 40s, right around 1940. Scattered around a little bit in the area when they first developed this area, and then they were used by all kinds of different families, and one of them was used by the police department at one point in like the 60s or something, and then they were eventually donated to the Heritage Park, which is where we are now. You can see there's all kinds of different buildings here. There's something like 20 or so different buildings, churches and banks and whatnot around here, but these 3 were landed on some pretty terrible foundations, and then this spot was flooded. There was like 3 feet of water here last spring when the river that's right behind the buildings, the ice didn't let go, and so it backed up and it flooded a whole bunch, and so the bottoms of these buildings basically were completely rotted out and destroyed. So we're restoring them because the logs are 70 years old anyways. There was a lot of work that needed to be done to a lot of the logs that didn't get water damage, but we're replacing a lot of the bottom courses. As you can see here, we got them. We built, before I got here, new foundations were poured, and then the 3 buildings which were elsewhere on the property were brought here and landed on top of the cribbing here on top of the new foundations, where they're going to sit for as long as they'll last, I guess. So we're taking out a bunch of the bottom courses from all 3 because the bottom, at least the bottom row or 2 of logs, were completely rotted out, and we didn't even bring them over here and land them. They just got rid of them right away. And then some of the new ones here we took out, and I had to retool on the inside. I'll go inside of one of them and show you. But we're doing a lot of traditional broad axing. Because it's our day off, all our tools are locked up. So I've got lots of photos on Instagram of a lot of the broad axes and a lot of the tools we're using. We got to do it really traditional, just to maintain that aesthetic, because this is what we're going for. This is how they originally tooled all these logs. They didn't have a lumber mill or a bandsaw mill or anything here to saw the flats of the inside, just so you have a nice flat wall on the inside of your building. So they did it with an axe, and you go along and you cut notches at the depth that you're looking for, and then you come along with your broad axe and saw them off with that, and it takes a lot of practice. I've done like probably 25 logs now. Some of them are long, like 28 feet, so I've got a bunch of practice in, and it's still I'm not coming up with a very smooth finish. Luckily, we're not looking for a very smooth finish because we got to match what's inside the buildings, and those guys, we keep joking around that winter was probably coming because some of the notching here, I'll show you here, some of these notches, they just cut them square. They didn't do like a proper saddle notch where they would scribe to the actual log. They just cut it square, 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 slam it down, filled it with this concrete chinking, which is half the problem. The concrete, actually, water gets in behind here and it stays. It can't get out anywhere, and so it just rots the logs out. Later on, we're going to be doing some cob chinking, which is a mixture of sand and clay and some straw, which is way better because then moisture will actually wick through that and won't just sit in there and rot the logs. I'll find a good one here to show you some of the hewing, the hand hewing we're doing. Here's a deck full of logs. These ones are all new, ready to go. We're trying to, the best that we can do is not remove any of the old heritage wood at all, but on a lot of the logs, because they're so rotten, we'll try to remove some parts, and we'll remove just sections of the log where it's rotten too far this way, and then we'll scarf in a nice clean scarf joint there and actually hew the bottom half of that to match. And turn this guy over. I'll give you a shot here. So there you can sort of see scarf joint, and I've tried to match the tooling marks where they would have hit this with the broad axe originally. This one's actually been retooled. This is one that when they first moved the buildings here to the site, they replaced a couple of the lower logs, but they didn't bother hand hewing or flattening off any of these things. They just threw the logs in to replace the old ones, and so that really didn't match the aesthetic. So we're taking out the old ones that were replaced, the old new logs, and retooling them to match the old logs and try to make the whole place look like sort of like it was originally. Here's inside one of these old buildings. A lot of the ceiling's been reinforced. These things were really shaky when we tried to move them around and flew them over here. But here's kind of, these are original. This would have been done 70 years ago, and like you can see, I mean, it's not a nice clean finish. They're just whack, 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 next log. We got to get these buildings done. A lot of the time they were kind of planning on cladding the inside of them, and so you don't really see much of it anyways. But yeah, it's just a bunch of cheap, crappy concrete chinking that falls apart. So replace that with some cob, it'll be much nicer. And yeah, like I say, I wish I had some of the tools out to show you what we've been up to, but that's kind of here's the third building. Only one of them's got any type of lap joint at the end. The other two buildings have these where they just kind of finish them in a little bit. All these logs are totally different sizes, so they're all over the place, but and then they just finish the corners of the board here instead of actually lapping them, which is a lot easier. There's not a whole bunch of joinery to do. So that's, I guess maybe it's just faster for them to do that. So we're just gonna match that up. And yeah, here's where most of the work's been going on. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see a bunch of photos from around here. We just make up these sort of little decks, work blocks, land the logs on there. Luckily, after about a week, we finally got a little Zoom Boom forklift to help us carry these things, because they're spruce and they're green and they're big and really heavy. It would take, you know, 4 of us on straps just to lift one off of the decking onto the blocks to work on it. So luckily we got a machine. Here's another example of the scarf joinery. This was an originally, sorry if I can't really see what I'm filming here, but this is the original log, original hand hewing, and so we have to match that up. And we didn't get any logs that were this small. All we got were like huge 10-inch logs, and so we have to tool them down. A lot of draw knifing and axe work, but we get it down to the same size so it'll match and fit back into the building. So I got 6 more days left here working on these 3 guys. Most of the tooling is done, just a couple more logs that we have to finish up. These 2 guys sitting on the deck here, they just need to be draw knifed to get a nice smooth finish, like this one here. Put a nice finish on the outside. You don't want to leave bark on the outside of your logs because it just holds water and promotes rot, and it's also a real easy spot for bugs to come and set up shop, and that's never good for the structure of your home. So we peel all the bark off and then work it down with a draw knife best we can. Unfortunately, a lot of the logs have a bunch of this on them, these markings. These are from the processor, the big machine that would have fallen and bucked up these logs to length originally, and it would have done a lot of the limbing, knocked all the branches off. So unfortunately the machine leaves all those marks in, so we try to orient the logs depending on where they're going to sit in the house. Obviously the top and bottom surfaces aren't visible, so we try to orient the logs so that all those marks will be either in the top or the bottom or inside where the new chinking is going to be. You can kind of estimate the line where the chinking is going to come out to, so it'll be hidden there. Or on this building here, It's actually clad on the inside, so we don't have to worry about the inside being visible. So you can kind of streamline your work that way. You don't have to do as much work, but a lot of those machine markings are twisted around the log, and so a lot more of it's exposed than you wish, and it's a lot of work to get them down. With a draw knife, they're pretty deep. So yeah, it's been lots of fun. It's pretty interesting. And it's basically just a project of solving hundreds of small little problems, little projects to figure out one giant repair. I'll show you one other thing. We're doing these things called Dutchmans. Here's a good one here. Little patches. If there's a tiny little bit of rot, we could just saw out and around where there's a little bit of rot, and then just replace one little piece. Because like I say, we try our best to maintain as much of the original wood as possible, because that's what heritage restoration is all about. It's not about taking it out and replacing it all new. You try to keep it all as original as possible, because that's what people like to see. So anyways, that's it from me up here in Fort McMurray. I'll be back in 6 days. I can't wait. I got the new grinder showed up. So my girlfriend picked it up for me from the post office. She said she could barely lift it, and it doesn't even come with a motor. So I'm excited to get home, get that thing set up, and just be home again. It's a long time to be up here, and there's nothing to do up here, so looking forward to it. But anyways, thanks for keeping up, and we'll be back soon.